Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a very special guest today, Jacqueline Gomes. She is a registered dietitian, and I wanted to have her on because I know for a fact, as an entrepreneur myself, if I'm not taking really good care of myself, it does affect my business heavily, and it affects how I coach, how I just show up online. And I really just wanted to have her on because she's just, every time she posts about food, just fitness and just mental health, like it really resonates with me. So, Jacqueline, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how are you, Allison? I'm so excited to connect with you again. This is awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love for you to tell the audience, just give them a little bit more about who you are and what you're all about.
Absolutely. So I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I specialize in counseling around nutrition, providing medical nutrition therapy to my clients. In my company, we have both one-to-one programs and group programs, which are a lot of fun. I totally encourage group programming. I do a lot of public speaking as well. I love talking to groups of people about improving their health and how that connects to their professional life and personal life. So over here at Jacqueline Gomes Nutrition, we are all things health and wellness.
Well, I would love for you to dive into your own story about burnout and entrepreneurship. I know that right before we got started, you told me a story, and I think that could really resonate with the audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I haven't really shared this publicly, but I think it's important. There's no shame around it. It's just, I just haven't really gotten to it, but I think it's really important for entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are really trying to drive their own ship to really understand the connection. And it's not just a connection. I really like to say that it is a profound connection between your health and the quality of your life and your productivity as it relates to your own career, your own business, and your personal life. Everything kind of goes together, right? You're a mom, you get it, right? When you're really stressed out, you're probably the rest of your family feels that as well. And so I have been really, for the past couple of years, like many entrepreneurs, needing to really be involved in the social media life because that's just where people are. That's where people hang out. And so I've spent a lot of time building my brand on social media and really working hard on my business, getting my coaching up and running. And so I was doing that for several years and everything was good. I love what I do. But right around last summer, actually, we're just coming up on a year now, I actually had a medically documented anxiety attack. And, when that was happening, I was actually right here in this office, so I'm feeling a little bit emotional about it. But it was terrifying because what ends up happening is when all those emotions come at once, it's usually triggered by an event, and it was triggered by something that occurred in my business. And it was like things were piling, and it actually felt like just the ground gave way and everything just crashed from there on out. And they say when you have an anxiety attack, you almost feel like you're having an outer body experience, and it lingers, and it did. So my children came to me and I was like, almost like I didn't even see them. It was really terrifying. So after I, got over it, and obviously no one experiences that and doesn't need to go to therapy like you really do. So I did. And it was really, it was great for me personally and professionally, I will say, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But what I want to say is that a lot of times when we are so much in the thick of it, when we are entrepreneurs, it's like the very nature of who we are is to obsess over our business, our product, our service, right? You want to be the best that you can be. You want to give the best that you can give. And so what I realized was that I'm very introverted. You wouldn't know that by watching me on social media, but I need time to disconnect from people and a lot of chaos and a lot of I just kind of draw in a lot of people's emotional energy. And so I wasn't disconnecting. I was just kind of going from one thing to the other, not taking any time to meditate or just decompress or find something that was enjoyable to me, just just for me, right? And so that's what kind of, I think, was with a driving force behind having this sort of breakdown, if you will. Now I'm a pretty resilient person. I, picked myself up, but I refocused and I sort of rebuilt this new version of me, which was really about caring for my mindset first, my body first, my family first, and my business after that.
So, like I said, I had you on because I love how you talk about this. Like so many times, like we start feeling those emotions inside of our business, and like we just kind of shut down and we don't show up anymore. We do go through that full like what's wrong with me? Like what am I doing wrong? Like all these things, right? Like that's just like I hate to say this, it's just a part of like being an entrepreneur, of like going through all these emotions. And I know if we don't deal with our emotions deal with us. And they do that through our body, right? So I'd love for you, like, just tell me a little bit more about like, and this could be some like action steps for this woman to take right now who's like really feeling super overwhelmed in her business. Like clearly therapy is a big thing for like, even for me, I love talking to my coach. I literally vent about everything. I'm always just like, blah, blah, blah. This is going on in my life. It's like all the things. It's so beneficial to have a person for that. But like, what are some other things they could do to help with their mental state and also just their physical state for more productivity and just being like you said, like quality of life? Like, you didn't start this business to be super stressed out all the time, duh, right? Like, so how can we start to kind of eliminate some of those things that are going on inside of us?
Yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, I want to say that you're doing what you're doing because you have a passion for it. You want to either change someone's life for the better, or what sometimes I say is, very selfishly, I feel amazing when I help someone else, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that you don't want to lose the essence of why you're doing this, but you need to also consider yourself like a client, right? So think of yourself as, if you were talking to you, so step outside of your body and say, all right, if I was talking to Jackie as me, right? What would I say to her, right? And so, when we're talking about mental health, and then we'll kind of start there because it's an easy segue into the rest of what I think people can be doing to improve this, this whole situation, is that we need to first think about, where you are with your, like thinking about what you're grateful for. So let's start there, because that's kind of like an easy place to start. So even in my own coaching program with my own clients, and as you know, I'm a nutritionist, so many of my people are coming to me for weight management. But even outside of that, we deal with a lot of chronic disease. I always say, start with just 5 things you are grateful for each day. Just, grab a little notebook, whatever it is, 5 things, boom, boom, boom. That will automatically set the pace right away in the beginning of the day of feeling good, right? It's impossible to have negative feelings when you are in a state of gratitude. That goes without saying. The next thing is, if that's something that you're already practicing, maybe you need to think about brain dumping onto a piece of paper. That can really help to unload those heavy feelings as well. If you have a coach, utilize them as a way to talk about that as well. Sometimes my clients are like, oh, I know I'm here for nutrition, but I'm experiencing this. I'm like, no, this is why you're here. You can't have one without the other. People think we're like, pieces of a puzzle that are put together. I'm like, you're not a puzzle. You are one continuous human being. All of our systems are interconnected. So you need to recognize that has to be first, right? So we have to take care of all of our systems. So outside of, caring for your mental health, making sure that you are putting in routines that are consistent each day to help you put yourself in that positive place. I think that can make a big difference. Having a community, having a coach. That's one of the things that I love about group coaching, is that you have the ability to talk to other people who are experiencing what you're experiencing. And so now your situation is like not so unique. You realize, oh, wait a minute, everyone feels like that? Holy cow, I thought it was just me. So now I think that it gives you that sense of peace, like, okay, you know what? I can do this. Other people are dealing with it. I'm not crazy, or I'm not, like this is not absurd to be thinking in this capacity. Now, if it is taking over your life to the point where you are unable to manage it, PS, then maybe it's time to get some professional help. And I'm a huge advocate for that because it is so beneficial. So I think that that is like a really easy kind of like low hanging fruit, no pun intended, place to kind of start with just setting the intentions of like just bringing your cortisol levels a little bit down.
Mm. And how can food and fitness help with that too? Like, how is that all connected?
Yeah. So food is really, well, we'll start with food. And fitness is a big piece of this. So there's lots of research going on now around how food affects our mental health. And there was a study that I read recently that showed that individuals who were eating higher amounts of fried foods, and I can't remember the study offhand, but it was higher amounts of fried foods had higher levels of anxiety. And so there might be a correlation there. So I'm not saying, you should never eat fried food. What I'm saying is the quality of your diet really supporting the health outcomes that you're looking for, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, what are you looking for? I know I'm looking for good energy, positivity. Want to be alert. I want my brain to be functioning properly. I don't want to be hangry, that's for sure. Because when I'm hangry, people don't get the results that they want, right? Because I'm not my best. So making sure that those boxes are checked. So are you eating plenty of fruits and vegetables? Right? Like, are you? And, a lot of people will look at me and think like, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I didn't have any fruit today, or I didn't have any vegetables today.
They're like eating off all their kids' plates. They're like, I'll just finish whatever. Finish those chicken nuggets.
Right. So like start there. You want to be a role model to your children. Mm-hmm. Start there. Right. And that's easy because that is the foundation for a health promoting diet is we need to have those plant-based foods. Right. So there's no one that can't benefit from eating more fruits and vegetables. So really fill your plate with a plant-forward way of eating. And plant-forward simply means by just being intentional about getting more fruits and vegetables on your plates. Okay. The next thing is what's your beverage situation? Are you surviving on coffee?
I was literally, as you said, I'm going to write down caffeine here because I know that's a huge, it's like, of course we want to get more work done. Let's just drink more caffeine. But I'm like, it's actually hurting you more than it is helping.
Yeah. So I am all about that first cup in the morning, girl. Mm. If someone turned to me and was like, you literally cannot have coffee ever again, I would be like, yeah, just what are the consequences? I'll just take the consequences. So I need at least that one cup. And I think most people, unless you have like a serious ulcer or some other critical condition where any caffeine is going to affect your health, then yeah, that's a different situation. I'm talking about the normal kind of regular person. So with that in mind, I think that yes, if you need to have a cup of coffee in the morning to get that boat running, fine. I think the problem becomes when we rely on it as a crutch to stay awake. That 3 p.m. slump, let me just go grab a cup of coffee. But then also there's a lot to consider when we are having that coffee. So I recently had a client who was like, well, yeah, I'm just having like a cup of coffee, in the morning and in the late afternoon, a couple of times a day to kind of pick me up. So this entire time I'm thinking it's just coffee. And then one day I was like, what's in this coffee? Because I'm having a little trouble with like trying to figure out how this is fitting into your diet. Anyway, long story short, it was one of those K cups that was like birthday cake flavored and it was loaded with sugar. And I was just like, no, I was like, that's not the jam. So, we also need to consider like what else is going into our coffee that may not be really benefiting us as well. So
all the Dunkin' Donuts creamers and everything that's in that. It's like, I just have one cup of coffee, but I'm like, that's like 1,000 calories.
Yeah. So like, really the American Heart Association recommends only 6 teaspoons of total added sugar for women for the entire day. That's not really a lot, and so when we're, thinking about the quality of our diet and we start to realize like, oh, we have sugar in the coffee, we have sugared creamers, we have desserts, cakes, this cookies, all that starts to add up. So then, if you're eating that, you're not eating something else. So that's what I always like to say. So getting back to the caffeine situation is that caffeine will eventually backfire because you could get that immediate high, but then at some point you're going to crash. And then is it disrupting your ability to fall asleep at night? So there's lots of things to consider. And I think that, we have to look at the person as an individual, but I would strongly consider you looking at your caffeine intake and really assessing, at what point is it really excessive? I would say past 3 cups, like that's a lot. Even at 3, I think is getting a little too much. That's just my personal opinion.
I just know after like if I am like in the middle of my second cup, my body's like, you're done. Like enough is enough. Like I just know. And I don't know if like anybody else feels that way when you're listening to this, being like, you just know when your body's just had enough caffeine or just enough coffee for the day.
Yeah. And then the other sad fact about caffeine is that it is directly related to anxiety.
Yeah. 100. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's not fun. Like you already live in a super anxious world. That's all you hear, right? Oh, I'm so anxious. I have all this anxiety. That's all you hear everywhere you go. Well, your caffeine addiction might be like adding to that situation. So scaling back on that could potentially help relieve some of that anxiety that you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. I even this morning, it's obviously summer here, and I like to go outside and just relax. And I was like, there was a part of me that's like, I wish I didn't have my cup of coffee first. Like I would really just love to come out here, meditate, just kind of like sit in silence for a bit, and then had my cup of coffee because I just felt a little anxious. There was like something that was like a little anxiety was happening. I'm like, it was all correlated to my cup of coffee, and I knew it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that, that does happen to me sometimes on the weekends because I like the flavor of coffee.
I mean,
So
yeah, me too. Yeah.
have another cup. And then like a half hour later, I'm like, oh my God, why am I so anxious? You start like stress cleaning and doing all this stuff. And you're like, oh, maybe
overthinking my whole life and everything that I've right.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So that's I think where we can make a little bit of adjustments, to try and cut back on some of that anxiety or that, overwhelming feeling, caffeine can play a role. So with the beverage situation, are you drinking enough water? So water really is a nutrient. It's not just something that, nutritionists like to say, oh, you need to drink more water. Like there is value in being well hydrated because, water is needed for life. Yes, but it is needed for our body to function efficiently, for our metabolism to function efficiently. And so we can also have some disruptions in signals that we're receiving from our body if we are dehydrated. So many times, if you're feeling hungry or you're feeling like you need something, you might just be thirsty. You might just need more water. And also, it helps to alleviate a lot of these extra artificial sweeteners and or regular sweeteners if you're just kind of relying on water. So, water's boring. That's something I hear a lot, and I get it. It is. I agree. It is boring. I drink a ton of it, but I'm also used to it. So your body will acclimate to whatever you give to it. But if you're needing to go through a transition where you're like, all right, I'm up here with drinking either soda or juices or whatever calorie containing beverages, just dilute it. So cut it in half with water and start there. Any progression to getting closer to just plain water, I think is going to be a good step, a step in the right direction. I don't think anybody should just go cold turkey on anything unless you really think that that's right for you. If that's right for you and you think that that is the magic bullet, go for it. No one's saying not to, but if you know that it's going to cause further anxiety or stress because you're like, oh, this is just like too much too fast, then start slowly. Right? Just cut back on what you're doing. If you're having 2 sodas a day, go to 1. If you're having 3 glasses of juice a day, or maybe you're stuck on, sometimes I hear people who are like really stuck on like sports drinks, whether it's like a Gatorade or whatever else. And like, you could go to like the diet version and see if that is a good in between for you. But now we're learning that these artificial sweeteners are disrupting our microbiomes, which is further complicating.
I was going to say, like, nowadays, I feel like diet isn't so good for us either. So,
it's a good in between.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than, I think it's better than just doing straight soda. I think that, and I may have like Pepsi or Coke, outside my door ready to like run me down, but I think soda is the worst possible thing you can put in your body. Like, it's the worst possible. I don't know. I can't even think. I'm trying to think if there's something more vile the phosphorus in it, like the soda, it just leaches calcium right out of your bones. It's nothing but sugar. It's just, there's no benefit. There's just no benefit to drinking this stuff. But, if you are currently, struggling with your health, there's, individuals who are struggling with their blood sugar, individuals who are struggling with their weight. It may be beneficial to go from a regular to a diet as an in-between. Then the ultimate goal is, of course, to get off of it.
Mm-hmm. What about alcohol? I feel like that's something too, is like, I know a lot of women at the end of the day, like, oh, just to relax, I'll have a glass of wine or a beer. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think that's okay, to a degree. I think that it matters what your week kind of looks like. So if you are needing to unwind with a glass of wine at the end of the day, like, okay, if that equates to 5 glasses of wine for the week, fine. I mean, it just depends on what your ultimate goals are. But that's usually not where people stop. It's,
I have 2 or 3 glasses of wine.
I have 1 glass of wine at the end of the day. And then Saturday, I have 4, 5, or 6, right? Between Saturday and Sunday, or between Friday. So that's where it's time to start to multiply. So you have to think about where you are and what your limits are, what boundaries you have. So I talk a lot about boundaries, and this is particularly beneficial for entrepreneurs because a lot of times we have no boundaries. So we're just like, oh, I'm just going to do it all, right? And you have it all and all this other stuff. And that's fine. But when it comes to your health outcomes, you do have to set boundaries. So I had a client who she had a baby and her goal was to lose the baby weight. Fine. But she's like, Jackie, I really need that. Even if it's a half a glass of wine at the end of the day, like, I just really want it. Fine. We worked it into her plan. It wasn't excessive because she just continued that over the weekend. It wasn't like multiple. So that's what I mean by setting boundaries. You have to figure out where you are in your journey and in your health, and where are you going to set those boundaries? If weekend drinking is really important to you, then I would say, maybe forego it during the week. Have a cup of tea, which also has soothing properties. I mean, I think there's benefits to getting off alcohol. I'm not a big drinker personally. And sometimes I get questions in social situations like, oh, you don't drink. And, I think that this is just a sidebar.
Yeah.
Don't ask people that. Like, why? Like, unless you're my sister or my cousin or someone who's really close to me, like, why are you going to ask someone why there's probably a very good reason why they don't.
Mm-hmm.
I personally, am like a 1 to 2 drink kind of limit girl on a Saturday, but that's like it for the entire week. And my husband and everyone around me can validate that. Mainly because I think that, for one, it does create it doesn't increase your hunger hormones. So not that I'm like, looking to restrict or anything, but, when I think of like my clients, I'm like, they're trying to maintain a certain diet, like certain way of eating. Right. And so if you're mixing alcohol into that equation, a lot of times it can kind of derail you. But for me personally, I just don't like who I become when I drink too much. Yeah. I like to be me, and I don't think I'm me when I have like past that 3 drink mark. I start to get really, really chatty, and I'm not a chatty person.
I I feel you 100% on that. I haven't drank. I drank for the first time last night, which it wasn't like a ton of, but it wasn't like I was like wasted by any means or anything like that. But like, I haven't drank in like 2 months, and it was literally just like I was having some health problems. I had a cold, and I was just like, and I just personally did not desire alcohol at all. Like it was not at all like, oh, I can't wait to have a glass of wine tonight. I was like, that sounds actually really disgusting. Like my body was just like rejecting like anything. Like I had no cravings for it. So yeah. And anyway, last night I had a few drinks and I came home and my husband goes, you look pregnant right now. Your stomach. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like I just had like 3 beers and I just feel like I'm so bloated. Like I just felt so gross. Like I was just like, man, like, and I don't know, even today when I woke up, even with 3 drinks, I was just like, this not for me. Like, and I don't get me wrong, every so often it is nice to let loose and just whatever. But even the next day, like the anxiety of like, what did I say to that person? Like how, again, like you said, like you become somebody else a little bit and you're just like, I don't love that person. I just don't. I forget what somebody called it, like the hangover anxiety, like hangxiety or something like that. Yeah, when you wake up, you're like, what did I say? What did I do? And you have so much anxiety the next day and you're hungover, so that doesn't help. And you're just like, oh, like I hate that feeling. I hate it.
I don't love that. But it's like multi-level. And then there are some individuals who are really struggling with their immune system. If you add alcohol to that mix, I got to tell you, you're going to struggle even more. So your immune system doesn't love like toxins. I don't know if alcohol is considered a toxin, but I
mean, I would consider it. It can be very toxic to a lot of things inside your body.
Past a certain level, right? It's like a little bit's fine, a lot not so fine, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think everyone has their own opinion on it, and I'm cool with that. I don't pass judgment on people who enjoy drinking at all, but it's just my own personal thing that I think if it's going to add to my anxiety, if it's going to make me feel like not my best, then why? Like, why am I like, why? What's the point?
Yeah. So obviously you work with women who possibly also smoke marijuana and all that. How does that affect diet and just overall productivity and stuff like that as well?
That's a great question.
Do you ask them that? Like, is that like a question that you ask? Like, what kind of other things are you doing?
I think it's on my intake form, but not a lot of people address it. I don't really address it unless someone is forthcoming with the, or I don't ask, I should say, unless someone is forthcoming with the information. And some people do. They say, oh, I don't know if you need to know this, but I do ingest marijuana to fall asleep at night. I'm like, okay, that's good. Fine. Good to know. It's good for me to know. I'll tell you why, because the munchies are a thing, right? This is like something we just know. So it increases appetite. And as someone, I don't know if you know this, but I was an oncology dietitian early in my career. And so I worked with cancer patients, and throughout my practice, I still do see the occasional person who's going through chemotherapy or struggling with something like that. And marijuana is wonderful for increasing the appetite. We like it for that reason. So if you're trying to, again, have a hold on your lifestyle, your diet, the way that you're eating, maybe relying on that types of substance may not be in your best interest, And so I know lots of people in my own personal circle who do struggle with that. They're good all day, and then at night, they either take like a gummy or something to fall asleep. But in that interim, they're snacking, they're hungry, they're this, they're that. And that feeling probably wouldn't have been there if they didn't take it. So, but it's a hard question to answer because sleep is really important.
Yeah.
And so if you're struggling with your sleep, which is a common problem, listen, if you're an entrepreneur, business owner, high level executive, if you're managing something, if you don't have anxiety before bedtime, I need to know what that secret is. I need to know why you don't, because last night and the night before, I was solving every issue in my business, right? And I was doing every project under the sun. And so that does compromise your ability to fall asleep. So I like to tell people, let's start a different route. Let's start with melatonin. Does that work? Valerian, does that work? Like a sleepy time tea, does that work? meditation, reading. So I try to instill sleep hygiene action steps first. And if none of that works, okay, then it's your business if you want to do, the marijuana. I don't think there's any long-term effects of doing it. I don't really spend a lot of time reading research on it. If somebody knows, feel free to, comment or chime in. But I think the only issue I see with it in people that I work with is just when it enhances appetite. Outside of that, if it chills you out and that's what you need to do what, to live the life, have at it.
I love your no judgment approach to all of this. It's just like, you got to just do what works for you.
Yes, you do. You do. And it's different strokes for different folks, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I have, also worked with people where they're like, I don't get any appetite one way or the other with the marijuana. It's just there to chill me out. I go right to bed. The deal is done. I wake up in the morning refreshed and I'm good to go. I'm like, then you keep doing that. Make sure you let your doctor know, listen, I'm not your physician. I'm your dietitian. It's a much different, situation. I treat people with food. When you're ingesting things that are not considered food, it's hard for me to, be able to tell you the right or the wrong. You should always consult with your physician just in case there's contraindication with something else that you're taking or some other treatment that you might be having. But that's kind of how I see that, that playing out.
Mm-hmm. So going back to like productivity, like if this woman like wants to be able to wake up, I mean, obviously she's really, like you said, she's very passionate about what she does, likely, right? Like she started this business for a reason, like she loves what she does, but like she's just lacking that focus, lacking that productivity during the day to like continue keeping up with that energy. I said, we know that, food and like the caffeine, like a lot of this stuff has a direct effect in sleep, right? Like, are you getting the amount of sleep that you need? But like, she's just like, I'm crashing and I don't know why. Like, what would be some other reasons why she's crashing like that?
So let's dive in.
Yeah.
So we need to look at a couple of different things. So we've already talked about managing our anxiety with either therapy, journaling, gratitude, all that. Mm-hmm. When it comes to really low energy levels, when I dive into someone's diet, really what I'm looking for is a couple of different things. Frequency of eating. If you're having breakfast or some morning meal, how much protein you're taking in. So are you eating protein at breakfast, lunch, and dinner? The quality of the diet. So what is the ratio of health promoting foods? So foods that are nutrient dense versus foods that are just for fun, right? So I'm not saying you can never have a cookie, but if you're eating cookies 3/4 of the day and then, having some health promoting foods, that's not a good ratio. It's not a good balance, right? So we have to look at the balance. And then we have to look at sleep hygiene, right? So are you getting enough sleep? So if you're getting enough sleep and you're still feeling depleted, you probably are not eating enough, which is a common problem I see. Oh, I was too busy. I worked all day. I skipped lunch because you know what? I forgot. I was on the phone. I was doing this. Then you are not being intentional about your health and wellness. So I got to tell you, I see patients a lot of days all day, or I have a corporate position where I am, doing more corporate health and wellness type functions where I'm really busy as well. But my calendar is always booked between 11:30 and 12. You know why? Because that's when I like to eat lunch. Mm-hmm. So I intentionally set the space for what I need to make sure that I'm fueled and to make sure that I am going to be productive by having enough nutrition on board. If I schedule someone in that time, I know that I'm not going to be my best. I'm going to be depleted, or I'm not going to feel as energetic because I'm not caring for my nutrition at that point, right? If you just skip it. So there is a little bit of a sacrifice that needs to take place in that. And I think that going back to setting boundaries, that's the only way you get anything out of life is by setting boundaries. It can't just be one constant free for all. So I would look at that. And then, also the other thing I've noticed a lot about women is that a lot of women tend to skip out on the protein, thinking that, oh, well, that's just adding more calories. So I'll just eat veggies and a half a slice of bread. Okay, well, you're going to be hungry in like 35 minutes. So
Yeah.
we should add some protein so that you have more stable blood sugars. Your meal is lasting longer. You feel fuller, more satiated, whatever words you want to use, but that's what protein does for us. And so those are all the things I would look for. Also, hydration. And when all of those things are corrected, that's when I start to see people feeling more energetic.
Mm. What do you, so obviously I'm all about energy. Like you've known me for a long time now. I'm always just like, have good energy, and people are attracted to that. Right. So like that person that's so low on energy right now, that's just like, how do I get a quick pick me up? Besides like obviously more caffeine and like energy drinks, like is there like a go-to, like, I don't know, is it as simple as just changing the diet? Like,
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helps. And you'll undoubtedly see improvements in your disposition just by improving the quality of your diet. But the other thing that sometimes we forget about is that by being more physically active, we want to be more physically active.
yeah.
Physical activity is a natural endorphin booster, right? That's what happens when we start working out is we get a rush of these feel good hormones. And I think that when someone has chronic fatigue or just kind of not even fatigue, but just kind of like low level energy, I sometimes suggest, hey, why don't we just flip your entire schedule, your routine? Let's start with a morning workout. And every time someone does this, they're like, it sucked getting up. But then I was more energetic throughout the day because I started my day with that workout. So that could be a really easy way to get that immediate boost. So I go through, lots of nights like any mom, that I don't sleep a full night because I have a child that comes into my room. One of my 6-year-old, his favorite question is, "Mommy," wakes me up, "can I go to the bathroom?" I'm like, "Go ahead." Like, why are we asking permission at 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom? Why? Right? So that disrupts your sleep naturally, right? So you're going to be a little bit more tired the next day. Guess what, sister? I still get up for my workout. It's discipline because I know that if I skip that workout, I'm going to be more annoyed that I didn't do the workout than the fact that I'm just a little tired, right? So I think that that's part of it is we do have to create some discipline. At first, it's creating a habit, right? At first, it's like, okay, I have to get into this habit of doing this. But over time, that's when it becomes discipline, where you do it, whether you want to do it, you like to do it, or you, whatever, that this is what is going to be for your highest good. That either drinking this water, doing this workout, fill in the blank, that's going to be more beneficial for you than if you don't do it.
I look forward to going. Like, I don't know. I actually go to like a place to go work out, and there's just something about it where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go now. I don't know. Like that didn't take that. I mean, I guess I wasn't like that, at the beginning, but I don't know. There's something about it now. I'm like, I can't wait. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It gives you like a sense of community, and it's great to be around people that have like that same vibe that you have, right? They're like, oh, you're here to work out at the same place. We like the same thing. Like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, any last words of wisdom, Jacqueline?
Oh boy. Yes. I would say that, as someone who has done all the things, right? I'm super type A. I am very driven, super disciplined. Most of your clients or anyone who's watching this is going to be like, yeah, like that's me too. There's lots of us. I will say that probably the one thing that keeps me the most even keeled, and I do have a high propensity for anxiety, is that my morning routine stays the same day in and day out. I get up, I work out, I practice gratitude, I meditate, I pray, I talk to whoever is listening in my head. And that is what sets the stage for me personally to have the there's a fly in here, to have the type of day that I want to have. Now, I am not a magician, right? So I can't say that everything works out perfectly. It never does. That life is not about that. But it is about trying to have some sense of control over the outcomes of your health and of your well-being. And so the only thing I can do is have that discipline, is plan to have healthy meals, is to create the space for my lunch. So because I know that I'll operate my best. So look at your life, figure out where you are, what habits and routines do you have now, and what might you be able to look at and change to have a better outcome later down the road.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think so many entrepreneurs need to hear that. It's like it has a direct effect on your productivity. Like when you when you really take good care of yourself, your business is going to thrive.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. And so tell everybody, like what are your offers? What do you have going on right now in your business? How can people hire you?
Yes. So you can work with me one-on-one or in my group setting. My website is www.busywomanweightloss.com. Although I do work with men as well. That just happens to be the name of my website. I do have a free newsletter, which I'm pretty active on. So if you head over to my website, you can sign up for that, or you can find me on Instagram at jacquelinegomes.nutrition. And there's no bot, like I'm the one who answers my DMs. You can talk to me directly. We can chat about what's going on with you. So that's a really great way to connect with me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I just love everything that you've shared today. I honestly think that the entrepreneur who's listening right now took a ton away. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks everyone for listening. Talk to you next week.